I'm just going to make sure the truth comes out. What happens after that is on them." Patricia nodded slowly, something like approval in her expression. "Then let's get started. First things first, we need to secure your financial assets. If your wife is planning to take everything, we need to make sure there's something left to fight for. Do you have any accounts she doesn't have access to?" "Just my work retirement account and one savings account she doesn't know about. I started it years ago for emergency car repairs. Kept adding to it whenever I had extra money. There's about 8,000 in there. Smart, don't touch it. That's going to be your war chest for legal fees and living expenses. We'll also need to freeze any joint accounts to prevent asset dissipation." "That might make her angry," Patrick interrupted. "But I don't care. Do whatever you need to do. I'm not letting her steal money from our accounts to pay for the lawyers. She's hiring to steal everything else from me. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel if you have not, because the ending of this story will blow your mind. And drop a comment below telling me what you think Patrick should do next." Patricia worked fast. Within 48 hours, she'd filed a response to Angelina's divorce petition that included his alibi evidence and a motion to freeze all joint assets pending investigation of fraud. She'd also hired a private investigator named Raymond Cole, a former LAPD detective who specialized in infidelity cases and had a reputation for being thorough to the point of obsessive. Patrick met Raymond at a coffee shop in Silver Lake 3 days later. The place was one of those hipster establishments with exposed brick and artisanal coffee that cost $7 a cup. Raymond was in his early 60s with gray hair and a weathered face that suggested he'd seen every type of human behavior and been disappointed by most of it. He wore jeans and a leather jacket, looking more like someone's cool uncle than a private investigator. He ordered black coffee and got straight to business, pulling out a tablet before he'd even fully sat down. "Your lawyer filled me in on the basics," Raymond said, opening a notes app. "Alleged pregnancy, false accusation, possible affair with the boss. Here's what I need from you. Everywhere you think they might have met. Every location Kayla mentioned hanging out this summer. Any trips your wife took without you. Any unusual expenses on credit cards. Any changes in behavior. Staying late at work. New clothes, different grooming habits. Suddenly interested in her appearance. Give me something to work with." Patrick had already prepared notes on his phone. Kayla did freelance work at Hartwell and Associates from June through September. My wife would have introduced them. She's the one who got Kayla the contract work. There's a hotel called the Maritime Crown, about 2 miles from the agency. Angelina mentioned once that Derek sometimes takes clients there for off-site meetings, because they have private conference rooms. If they were meeting secretly, that's where I'd look first. Raymond nodded approvingly, making notes. "Good instincts. Hotels like that are common. Private, anonymous, easy to claim you were there for business if anyone asks." "What else?" "Angelina took 3 business trips this summer that I thought were legitimate at the time. But now I'm wondering if they actually were. One to San Francisco in July, for what she said was a conference on social media marketing. One to San Diego in September. That's the one where Kayla claims I got her pregnant, supposedly for another marketing conference, and one to Santa Barbara in October for some kind of agency retreat. She said they were all for work, but I never saw any of the usual conference material she usually brings back. No folders full of handouts, no branded merchandise, no photos with co-workers. I'll verify those. Check if her agency actually had events in those cities on those dates. Companies file expense reports, register for conferences. There's a paper trail. If they didn't, Raymond let the implication hang in the air. What about financial irregularities? Changes in spending patterns? Angelina started spending more in August and September. Nothing crazy. Nothing that raised immediate red flags, but more expensive clothes from places she didn't usually shop. Better hair salon visits. She started going to some place in Beverly Hills instead of her regular salon. More makeup, nicer perfume. I noticed, but didn't think much of it at the time. She said she needed to look professional for some big pitches the agency was working on, and that made sense to me. Or she was competing with Derek's wife for his attention, Raymond said flatly. Classic affair behavior. Women either neglect their appearance, because they're distracted and emotionally unavailable, or they obsess over it because they're trying to impress the affair partner. They want to look perfect every time they see them. He made notes on his tablet. Give me a week. I'll find out exactly what Derek Morrison has been up to. And if your sister-in-law has been staying at any hotels, if there are any social media posts she thought she deleted but didn't, any paper trail at all, I'll find it. People always leave a trail, always. Patrick left that meeting feeling something he hadn't. Ty felt in weeks hope. Not just hope that he'd clear his name, but hope that justice, real, concrete justice, was coming. Hope that the truth would actually matter. That evidence would prevail. That he wouldn't be destroyed by lies. But he wasn't just sitting around waiting for Raymond to work. He had his own investigation to conduct, his own evidence to gather. Patrick still had access to the home security system. He'd set it up himself 2 years ago, when their neighborhood had experienced a rash of package thefts, cameras at the front door, back door and garage all connected to cloud storage. Angelina had never been tech-savvy enough to know how to remove his access, or even that she should. The account was in his name, linked to his email. She probably hadn't even thought about the cameras in the chaos of the past week. He logged in from his laptop at the extended stay hotel and started scrolling through footage, methodically going back through months of recordings. September, October, November. Hours and hours of mundane comings and goings. Angelina leaving for work at 8:15 a.m. every morning. Angelina returning home around 6:30 p.m. Their neighbors. Orange cat crossing the yard. The mail carrier. The Amazon delivery driver. Nothing unusual. Then he saw it. November 9th, 10:47 p.m., 3 days before the dinner. 3 days before his entire world exploded. Her car pulled into his driveway. Not Angelina's silver sedan, but a black luxury SUV, some expensive model Patrick didn't immediately recognize. The driver's side door opened, and Kayla stepped out, followed by someone else emerging from the passenger side. The angle wasn't perfect. The camera was positioned to capture package thieves, not detail everyone who visited. But Patrick could make out enough details: male, tall, well-dressed. Even at that late hour, the man looked around nervously before following Kayla to the front door, like he was checking to see if neighbors were watching. Angelina answered immediately, as if she'd been waiting by the door. There was a brief conversation on the doorstep, too far away for the camera's audio to pick up clearly, just muffled voices. And then all three went inside. The door closed. The driveway sat empty. Patrick's heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. He fast-forwarded through the footage, watching the timestamp tick by. 11 p.m. midnight, 1 a.m. The man didn't emerge until 1:23 a.m., nearly 3 hours. When he left, Angelina walked him to his car, visible in the camera's range. They stood close, too close, talking. Patrick could see their body language, intimate, familiar, comfortable. Then Angelina reached up and adjusted the man's collar, an intimate gesture that made Patrick's stomach turn. The kind of gesture you make with someone you're close to, someone whose appearance you care about. The man got in his SUV and backed out of the driveway, as his headlights swept across the front of the house, illuminating everything in their path. Patrick got a clear view of the license plate. He paused the footage, took a screenshot, enhanced the image until he could read every character clearly. Then he ran it through a DMV lookup service, the kind that exists in legal gray areas, but that private investigators and bail bondsmen use all the time. The SUV was registered to Derek Morrison at an address in Manhattan Beach, one of LA's most expensive neighborhoods. Patrick sat back, his mind racing through implications. Derek had been at his house in his home 3 days before the accusation, conspiring with Angelina and Kayla to destroy him, planning the details, making sure their stories aligned, coordinating the public humiliation. The rage that filled him was white-hot and all-consuming, threatening to drown out rational thought. But underneath it was something colder, something more dangerous, something calculating and patient. He saved the footage to 3 separate backup drives, then uploaded copies to a secure cloud server with end-to-end encryption. Then he started looking through older recordings with fresh eyes, searching for patterns he'd missed before, evidence he'd been too trusting to notice. August 15th, Kayla's car in his driveway at 2 p.m. on a Thursday. She stayed until 4:30 p.m. Angelina was at work. Patrick remembered, because he'd called her around 3 p.m. that day to discuss dinner plans. What was Kayla doing there alone for 2.5 hours? August 22nd, the same black SUV in his driveway at 7:45 p.m. Patrick had been working late that night. He remembered because it was the evening of a major server migration, and he hadn't left the office until after 10 p.m., Derek and Kayla meeting at his house while he was gone. They left together at 9:20 p.m., the SUV backing out with both of them inside. September 3rd, all three of them, Angelina, Kayla, and Derek, arriving together in Derek's SUV at 8:00 p.m. Patrick had been in Seattle that night in the middle of his audit. They stayed until nearly midnight. Hours and hours of conspiracy, of planning, of plotting his destruction. The pattern was unmistakable, clear as day. They'd been planning this for months, not weeks. Using his home as their meeting place, plotting his downfall while he worked overtime to pay the mortgage on that house, while he worked himself to exhaustion trying to secure their financial future. Patrick created a comprehensive timeline document marking every meeting, every suspicious visit, every piece of evidence with timestamps and screenshots. When Raymond called 4 days later, Patrick had 20 pages ready, organized, cross-referenced, and annotated. "I've got news," Raymond said, his tone suggesting it wasn't good news for Angelina and her conspirators. "First, the business trips. I called Hartwell and Associates, spoke to their event coordinator by pretending I needed to send a follow-up gift to Angelina. Hartwell and Associates did not have events in San Francisco, San Diego, or Santa Barbara on any of the dates your wife traveled. No conferences, no client meetings, nothing. The coordinator was very clear about it because she handles all event registrations. She said Angelina wasn't even on the approved travel list for those months." "Can you prove where she actually was?" "Working on it. I've got hotel records being subpoenaed through Patricia. That'll take a few more days, but we should have them soon. But here's the interesting part. Kayla was in San Diego the same weekend as your wife's supposed conference. I found an Instagram post she made and then deleted after a few days. But nothing's ever really deleted from the internet. She was at the Maritime Crown Hotel, September 14th through 16th. Same property, same dates. She posted a sunset view from what I've identified as one of their beachfront rooms. Very expensive rooms, by the way. Over $400 a night." Patrick felt his jaw clench. "And Derek?" "Derek. Morrison used a company credit card at a restaurant 3 blocks from that hotel on T. September 15th at 8:30 p.m., dinner for 2. Bill came to $347. Expensive wine, premium steaks, dessert. He told his wife he was at a conference in Sacramento that weekend. She confirmed it when I called her yesterday, pretending to be from his office, trying to verify some travel reimbursement paperwork. So all three of them were in San Diego together while I was in Seattle. Completely oblivious." "Looks that way," Raymond said. "And there's more. I pulled phone records for Derek Morrison. Had to call in a favor with someone who owed me. Cash changed hands. Don't ask me the details. But Kayla isn't the only one he was calling regularly. He and your wife have been in contact since June, sometimes 5-6 times a day. Calls at lunch, calls in the evening, calls during work hours. That's not normal for a boss and subordinate unless they're either working very closely on projects or they're having an affair." Patrick was quiet, absorbing this new information, feeling the full weight of betrayal settle over him again. "Are they having an affair?" "Angelina and Derek? Can't prove it yet with absolute certainty, but the pattern suggests either an affair or an extremely close working relationship that crosses professional boundaries. Either way, it's suspicious as hell given everything else. But here's what I can tell you. Derek's marriage is already on shaky ground. I talked to a neighbor who knows Amanda Morrison, Derek's wife. Apparently, they've been sleeping in separate bedrooms for about a year. There's tension there. So if Derek was looking for someone else, well, your wife fits the profile. What about the pregnancy? Is Kayla actually pregnant, or was that part of the lie too? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I haven't been able to confirm it independently yet, but I did find something interesting. Kayla made an appointment at a women's clinic in Culver City last week, Place called Westside Women's Health. I've got a source there, one of the administrative staff I've worked with before, who confirmed she came in for a consultation but didn't go through with any procedures. She left with brochures about paternity testing and prenatal care. Paternity testing. The word sparked an idea in Patrick's mind. If we could get Derek to submit to a paternity test, it would prove everything. It would conclusively demonstrate that he's the father, that Kayla lied about me. He'd never agree voluntarily. No man in his position would, Patrick said. But if you filed a motion claiming fraud and demanding a test to prove you're not the father, the court could compel him to test as well if you can demonstrate he had opportunity and motive, especially if you can prove he was having an affair with Kayla. The court won't want an innocent man being held responsible for another man's child. Patrick thought about the security footage, the hotel records, the phone logs, the coordination calls. What if we could prove they were all together planning this? What if we had them on video? Raymond's eyes sharpened with interest. Do you have video? I have security footage from my own house showing Derek, Kayla and Angelina meeting multiple times over several months, including 3 days before the public accusation. Hours-long meetings, late-night visits, everything time-stamped and saved. You beautiful bastard, Raymond said with genuine admiration, something like pride in his voice. That's not just evidence of an affair. That's evidence of conspiracy. That's them meeting to coordinate to plan. Can I get copies of everything? Already made them. Patrick slid a USB drive across the table. There's also a comprehensive timeline, document matching the video footage to phone records and financial transactions. Everything's time-stamped, cross-referenced, and organized chronologically. I've even included notes about where I was during each meeting, work, Seattle, wherever, to prove I had no knowledge of what was happening. Raymond plugged the drive into his tablet and started scrolling through the files, his expression growing more intense with each passing minute. Finally, he looked up at Patrick with something approaching respect. This is prosecutable. I mean actually criminally prosecutable. False accusations, conspiracy to commit fraud, potentially perjury if any of them have made statements under oath in the divorce proceedings. Your wife's lawyer is going to lose their mind when they see this. Derek's going to panic. This is airtight. When do we show them? Not yet. We need a few more pieces first. I want to establish the affair beyond any doubt. Get hotel records with both their names, credit card statements showing Derek paying for things for Kayla or Angelina. I want financial records showing if any money changed hands between them. And I want to know exactly what Kayla told her doctor about the pregnancy. Medical records can be subpoenaed in a fraud case. And if she told them something different than what she's telling your family, that's more evidence of lying. How long will that take? Another week, maybe 2 at most. But Patrick, Raymond's voice turned serious, his casual demeanor dropping away. Once we reveal this evidence, everything changes. Your wife will know you've been investigating her. Derek will lawyer up immediately. He'll hire the most expensive attorney he can find. Kayla might panic and admit things, or she might double down on the lies, and we'll have to keep fighting. This becomes a war. A very public, very ugly war. Are you ready for that fight? Really ready? Patrick thought about the dinner. The humiliation of everyone staring at him with disgust. The blocked calls and deleted accounts. The way Angelina had looked at him with such convincing hatred. Such perfectly performed betrayal. The 3 days he'd spent thinking his entire life was over. Thinking he'd never recover from this. I'm ready, he said, his voice steady and cold. Let them panic. Let them lawyer up. Let them scramble to explain. Away security footage and phone, records and hotel receipts. I want to watch them squirm. I want them to know what it feels like to be trapped, to be caught, to have nowhere to run. Good, Raymond said, genuine approval in his voice. Because in 2 weeks, we're going to drop this bomb and blow their whole world apart. The medical records arrived on a Tuesday morning, exactly 10 days after Patricia had filed the motion demanding them. Patricia called Patrick at 7:45 a.m., her voice tight with barely contained triumph, the kind of excitement attorneys feel when they know they have a winning case. You need to get to my office right now, she said without preamble. Drop whatever you're doing. We've got her. We've got all of them. Patrick was there in 20 minutes, his heart pounding the entire drive through morning LA traffic. Patricia was waiting in her conference room, documents spread across the long table like evidence at a crime scene, organized into neat piles. Raymond was there too, along with another woman Patrick didn't recognize, mid-40s, professional attire, grey suit holding a tablet, and wearing the confident expression of an expert. "Patrick Rice, this is Dr. Lisa Hammond," Patricia said, gesturing to the woman. "She's a medical consultant. I brought in to review Kayla's records and provide expert analysis. Lisa, tell him what you found." Dr. Hammond pulled up a document on her tablet, adjusting her glasses. Kayla submitted medical records from a women's clinic in Culver City as ordered by the court. She is indeed pregnant, approximately 18 weeks along as of the filing date. But here's the critical issue. Based on standard gestational dating using her last menstrual period, and confirmed by both an ultrasound performed at 8 weeks and one at 12 weeks, conception occurred in late July or very early August. Specifically, the estimated conception date is July 28th, plus or minus 3 days, not September. Patrick felt the air leave his lungs. So she was already pregnant, already more than a month pregnant, before she claims you. Could have been the father, which means her accusation against you is impossible timeline-wise, even if you hadn't been in Seattle during her claimed conception date. The medical evidence conclusively proves you could not be the father based on her own medical records. But there's more. Dr. Hammond scrolled to another document, a clinical intake form with handwritten notes. The clinic notes from her first visit in August indicate Kayla initially came in requesting information about terminating the pregnancy. She was given counseling as required by California law and provided with information about her options. She ultimately changed her mind about the termination, but those notes are part of her permanent medical history. They also note she was anxious about the father finding out and concerned about how it would affect her family dynamics, and worried about professional repercussions. Direct quotes from the intake form filled out by the counselor. She knew from the beginning who the real father was, Raymond added, satisfaction evident in his voice. And she knew it was going to cause massive problems. That's why she needed a scapegoat. That's why she crafted this entire elaborate scheme to frame you. Patricia leaned forward, her sharp eyes gleaming. We've also received the subpoenaed phone records as of yesterday afternoon. The pattern is even more damning than we thought. Derek Morrison and Kayla had 63 calls in July alone. The month conception occurred, including several that lasted over an hour late at night, early morning during work hours. The texts, while we can only see metadata since the content isn't stored, show hundreds of messages exchanged between them. And here's the kicker. On July 28th, the estimated conception date, Derek's credit card shows charges at a boutique hotel in Malibu. The Seabreeze Inn, very exclusive, very private, very expensive. Rooms start at $600 a night. She slid a photo across the table, a printed screenshot. The Instagram post showed a sunset over the ocean, photographed from a balcony with the caption, "Sometimes you need to escape from everything." In the reflection of the sliding glass door behind Kayla, barely visible but unmistakable, once you knew what you were looking for, was Derek Morrison shirtless, visible from the shoulders up. She forgot to check her reflection, Raymond said with deep satisfaction. Posted it, left it up for about 6 hours, then deleted it when she realized. But I recovered it from an archiving service that saves Instagram posts. Amateur mistake for someone trying to hide an affair. Patrick stared at the evidence. Years of rage and pain crystallizing into cold, clear purpose into absolute certainty. What's our next move? We go nuclear, Patricia said, a fierce smile on her face. I've prepared a motion to dismiss Angelina's divorce petition on grounds of fraud, malicious prosecution, and abuse of process. We're also filing counterclaims for emotional distress, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and conspiracy to commit fraud. We're going to present every piece of evidence. The medical timeline, the hotel records, the phone logs, your security footage, Derek's credit card statements, everything. And we're demanding that Derek Morrison be deposed under oath and submit to court-ordered paternity testing. What about criminal charges? Can we pursue those? That's above my pay grade as a civil attorney. But I've already been in contact with an old friend in the district attorney's office. They're very interested in the false accusation angle. Making a false accusation of a sex crime in California is a serious offense. It can carry up to a year in county jail and significant fines under penal code. So after 8.5, and if we can prove conspiracy between Angelina, Kayla, and possibly Derek. Patricia's smile was sharp and predatory. Let's just say your wife and her sister might want to start looking at plea deals to avoid jail time. Dr. Hammond spoke up, her tone clinical but concerned. I should mention one more thing that may be relevant. The clinic notes indicate Kayla was specifically concerned about high blood pressure during her pregnancy. Her readings at her last visit were elevated 140/92, which is borderline hypertensive. She's being monitored for preeclampsia, which is a serious pregnancy complication. The stress of a prolonged legal battle could potentially make that worse, though I'm not saying that to dissuade you, just to provide complete information about what you're dealing with. Patrick felt a brief flicker of concern. He wasn't a monster. He didn't want actual physical harm to come to anyone. But then he remembered Kayla's face at that dinner. Her tears that seemed perfectly calibrated, her perfectly performed devastation, the way she'd pointed at him and accused him of something so heinous while knowing she was lying. His sympathy evaporated like water on hot pavement. When do we file the motion? Tomorrow morning. First thing, Patricia said, organizing her papers with practiced efficiency. I wanted you to see everything first, to review all the evidence, to be absolutely certain you want to proceed down this path. Because, Patrick, this is going to explode. It's going to be in the news. Derek Morrison is a public figure in the advertising world. Hartwell and Associates is a major agency. This has all the elements the media loves. This is going to destroy reputations, end careers, possibly lead to criminal convictions. Derek's marriage will implode. Angelina's career is probably finished. Even if she doesn't face charges, who's going to hire someone involved in this kind of scandal? Once we pull this trigger, there's no calling the bullet back, no settling quietly. This becomes public and permanent. Patrick thought about the night he'd spent in that motel, staring at a water-stained ceiling, feeling like his life was over. He thought about his mother-in-law's disgusted face, the way she'd looked at him like he was something subhuman. He thought about Angelina, calling him a liar while knowing the truth the entire time, performing for an audience. He thought about being escorted out of his own office, losing his reputation, losing everything he'd built. File it, he said without hesitation. File everything. I want everyone to know the truth. I want everyone who turned their backs on me to know they were wrong. I want Derek Morrison's wife to know what kind of man she's married to. I want Kayla's child to grow up knowing exactly what his mother did. File it all. The next morning at 9:30 a.m. sharp, Patricia's office electronically submitted their comprehensive motion to the Los Angeles County Superior Court. By 11:30 a.m., Patrick's phone started buzzing with calls from numbers he didn't recognize. Reporters, journalists, bloggers. By noon, the story was on legal news websites. By 2 p.m., local news was picking it up. Angelina's attorney, a woman named Rebecca Thornton, called Patricia 6 times in the first hour alone, each call more frantic than the last. At 2:15 p.m., Patrick got a call from an unknown number with a 310 area code. He answered on speaker with Patricia and Raymond listening, recording everything. Patrick? It's Derek Morrison. The voice was strained, desperate, completely different from the confident. Creative director Patrick had met at dinner parties. The sound of that voice, the voice of the man who'd destroyed his life, who'd conspired to frame him, who'd used his home as a meeting place to plot against him, made Patrick's jaw clench. But he kept his tone neutral. I don't think we have anything to discuss, Derek. Please, just listen for 1 minute. Just 60 seconds. That's all I'm asking. Derek's voice was strained, almost breaking. I know you filed some kind of legal action. I know you have evidence. I'm calling to ask you, to beg you not to do this. My wife, my kids, they don't deserve. They didn't do anything wrong. They're innocent in all of this. Can't we work something out, please? Your wife doesn't deserve to know you've been cheating on her for months. Patrick interrupted, his voice cold. So your kids don't deserve to know what kind of man their father really is. That he's the kind of person who impregnates his subordinate sister and then helped frame an innocent man for it. I made a mistake. A terrible, terrible mistake. I know that. I'm not trying to excuse it. But going public with this, dragging everyone through court, destroying families, it's not going to help anyone. It's not going to undo what happened. What if we could work something out privately? I have money, significant money. I could compensate you for everything you've lost. Your legal fees, your pain and suffering, everything. Name a number, please. Let's settle this quietly. For what? Patrick's voice went even colder. For trying to frame me for getting your mistress pregnant? For conspiring with my wife to destroy my reputation and steal my assets? For using my home as your meeting place to plot all of this while I worked overtime to pay the mortgage? How much do you think that's worth, Derek? Because I'm thinking your entire career and your 24-year marriage is a pretty good start. But honestly, I don't think any amount of money is enough. There was silence on the other end of the line, broken only by Derek's heavy breathing. Then you don't understand what you're doing, Derek finally said, his voice low. You don't understand the consequences. People are going to get hurt. Innocent people. I understand perfectly, Patrick said. I'm exposing the truth. I'm making sure everyone knows exactly what you and Angelina and Kayla did. And you know what? The only innocent person in this situation is me. Everyone else made choices. See you in court, Derek. Patrick hung up. Patricia was grinning widely. That was either very stupid or very smart of him. If he's offering money, that's basically an admission of guilt. We can use that. I'll note this call in our records and include it in our evidence file. He's panicking, Raymond said, pulling out his phone to make notes, which means he's going to make more mistakes. The question is whether Angelina and Kayla panic, too, or if they try to stand their ground. They got their answer that evening. Patrick was back at his hotel room, trying to eat dinner, trying being the operative word, because his appetite had been non-existent for days when his phone rang. This time it was a number he recognized, Angelina, his wife, the woman who'd promised to love him through everything. He let it ring 3 times before answering, steeling himself. Hello, Angelina.